Crafters. Midnight Hunt spoilers are in full flow now. There's some really, really cool stuff coming out. I'm really, really excited for it, as I usually get around this time of spoiler season, but I think particularly so, especially if you've seen my Twitter recently. One thing does keep coming up though, and that's people wondering how Daybound and Nightbound works, because it is slightly complicated, and it's not totally intuitive, although it is, I think, a slight improvement on the original transform mechanic. I'm so pleased they did it as transform rather than MDFCs, but that's a story for another day. MDFCs are cool, but transform is really part of Innistrad. Anyway, I thought I'd put this video together, explain it. I'm going to take it back to the original Innistrad transform mechanics, specifically the werewolf ones and how they worked, and then say how it's changed for the new set. And there's some animations done. I'm pretty proud of the animations, even if maybe sometimes they're a little bit cheap, but I think they really help explain what's going on. If you're watching, thank you for watching. There will be a code being given out at some point, just a single pack code that I got from my LGS from a promo pack, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you do get it, comments below, and thanks again for watching. Anyway, let's get on with it. We're sort of start of spoilers that we're going to be making some changes to the werewolf transform mechanic. And although I really, really like the transform mechanics of Innistrad, I think it did need a little bit of work. And this is a really, really neat solution which cleans up some of the rough edges and potentially makes it a little bit more competitive as well. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but I think it is potentially a little bit stronger because it implies less shenanigans, I think. So the way it used to work is you would cast your Handwear Watchkeep, something that you see here, and it would have a flip side. And if you didn't cast any spells, and if no player casts a spell, at the beginning of the next upkeep, the card would check to see if that case had happened, and it would transform into its transform side. Now, this was actually the first transform card I ever opened. It opened an Italian pack of Innistrad in a Chaos Draft, and really had to figure out what it was, but we got there in the end. But this card does bring back some memories. So the cool thing with the transform mechanic is usually the two sides are linked. So you can see here on one side you've got a 1/5 defender, and the other side you've got a 5/5 which must attack every turn. So sometimes the similar abilities, sometimes in the case of this, they're opposites where one can't attack and one has to attack. Now, when you're playing with it, you would play it, and then if you didn't cast any spells, at the beginning of the next and if no player casts a spell, so it's you and the opponent, you can't have either player casting a spell, then it would transform at the beginning of the next upkeep. And that would be all well and good. However, if you're going to play another werewolf spell, then it would come in on the front face. And yeah, okay, that might make some sense because you haven't transformed that one yet, but it meant that you had to cast no spells again for a turn, so either you would stock up on loads of werewolves and then try and transform all at once, or you'd cast one thing, then take a turn off, and then maybe you get to cast something in the opponent's turn. But it was really difficult to get a full deck of werewolves going. When you did, it was really good. You could flip 4 or 5 cards potentially all at once and make them all more powerful, because usually the flip side, if not always, the flip side is the more powerful version. But it was really difficult to do, so there was that. There was also a case where if you do manage to transform it, then your opponent could cast 2 spells in its single turn and flip them back, or even you wouldn't want to be able to double spell on your turn because you would transform all your stuff back. So that was a bit of a issue that we had with the mechanic. And yeah, okay, I think that side of things is good for your opponent to be able to fight against it, because once you transform your cards, they get more powerful. But it was quite a lot of work to transform in the first place. You'd ideally want an onboard effect like a mana sink on a card, or instant speed spell you can cast in your opponent's turn, or just look out and get your opponent to not cast a spell to whiff a little bit, and then you get to transform your stuff for free. But it was a bit of work to transform them, and sometimes the benefit wasn't enough. So you now see the spells which look like this. So you've got a card here, and it's got Daybound on the front side, and on the back side it's got Nightbound. And let's have a look at how that works exactly. So the mechanic works in a very, very similar way, but there's some key little differences, some which are meaningful, some which are a little bit less so. So as you cast a spell, if it's a Daybound Nightbound card, it'll come in on the Daybound side. And if it's the first time that Daybound spells came into the play this game, then it automatically becomes day. So you've got to start tracking whether it's day or night. And the wording says that if at the end of a turn, if a player has not cast any spells during their own turn, it becomes night. So a little bit of difference here. The way it would work in the past is if at the upkeep, it would check if no players had cast any spells last turn. So it only cares about the active player, and it also happens at the end of the turn. So that is a bit of a difference here. Another difference is that if you cast another Daybound Nightbound permanent, or it enters the battlefield another way, it'll enter on its Nightbound side, so it'll already enter transformed. And it kind of makes more sense thematically because if it's night, everything that's going to transform at night is going to be transformed. So I think that's an improvement flavour-wise, but also it makes things a little bit more powerful. However, what this means, because day and night is a global effect, so it affects you and your opponent, if your opponent casts a transform spell like this, as you can see here, that's also going to come in on its Nightbound side. So that's a key difference. The way it transforms back to day is if on their own turn a player casts 2 or more spells, then it becomes night and everything transforms back. It becomes day and everything transforms back to the day side. So again, that's slightly different. If you got to cast 2 spells on your own turn, whereas before I believe it could be 2 spells on any turn. So that is a difference as well. Daybound Nightbound isn't the only way we can transform things on Innistrad though, and this is cool because yes, okay, we've got this Daybound Nightbound thing, but there's other things which don't care about it. So you can see here, Beloved Beggar, it doesn't have Daybound and Nightbound written on it, but it does have Disturb. And what this means is it dies, it goes to the graveyard. It's a 2 mana 0/4. When it dies, it goes to the graveyard, and you can pay its Disturb cost to bring it back. A little bit like Embalm, but you're going to bring it back as its transformed side, as you can see here. So the transform side, again, is usually going to be a more powerful version, and you've got to pay quite a bit of mana for it, but it's some solid value you get from this. This seems to be centered in blue-white, so I think that's going to be the mechanic for there. In the past, it's been Spirit, and I think most of these Disturb cards do seem to be Spirit as well, so that works there. Now, if you've been watching so far, thanks again for watching, and thanks again to everybody who's subscribed recently. As a little thank you, very small thank you, I am aware. Putting up a code here, so this is a code for a single pack, I think it was of Strixhaven, so feel free to put it in Arena and let me know once you've used it in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it, and thanks again for everybody who's given me the support. Up to 141 spoilers at the latest, 141 subscribers at the latest count, still going for that 200 by the time Innistrad comes out in paper, and I think I can do it, but it's going to be a real push. But thank you very much again. Of course, there's other ways to transform cards in Innistrad, and you can see this one here, Flame Channeler, and this one cares that if a spell you control deals damage, you transform it. So that's going to be something like a shock. I don't think there's going to be a shock in this format because of a few other mechanics that are going on. But if you spell you control deals damage, that's going to be to a player, to a creature, to yourself even, potentially, then you get to transform it into its transformed version. Again, you're looking at something a bit more powerful, and I think all these different ways of transforming things with these weird edge cases. You've got some things like Disturb and the Daybound Nightbound which kind of work in a particular way, but you get other things which just work in their own unique way, and it's all really exciting. So I don't know about you, I really can't wait to see the rest of the spoilers. I think I'll be doing some kind of draft guide. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in the draft guide. I'll probably cover the archetypes. I'll do the combat tricks like I normally do to some extent. Maybe it's not every combat trick, but the more important ones, and whatever else people want to see in the guide. So thanks again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I put quite a lot of work into it, and I think it does look quite good, and I hope to see you at the draft table. Bye.